good afternoon, everyone. So, are you excited to participate in this discussion? Some energy, folks? Yes? So, we've got a very interesting topic, education versus experience. For a lot of my professional career, and I'm sure for many of my colleagues here on stage, they face this dilemma when recruiting, that where do we hire from? Do we hire from premier institutes, or do we hire from anywhere? So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about this conundrum. Should we hire basis the education pedigree, the academic skill? So somebody who has mastered a JEE, is he better than anybody else? Is he the sharpest brain? Or do we really look at the skills and experience that people bring? So to get a sense of what the audience feels before we jump into the discussion, I'm going to ask you to show of hands. I'm sorry, LinkedIn folks, we won't be able to see your show of hands. The first couple of questions I wanted to ask.
Guys, how many of you are from non-top business school? And this chat is about you guys. Raise your hands. Not for IIMs. This is for you.
Okay. So the first question, and I'll tell you the scale first because you know where to put up your hand. Not at all important, somewhat important, fairly important, and very important. Okay, so the question is, education pedigree is important for predicting future performance. Is it not at all important? Anyone? No one? Somewhat important? No one? Fairly important? Still no one. Very important. Hands up. No. Sorry, we didn't get a response.
Okay,
Sorry?
somewhat important they're saying.
Somewhat important. But most of the audience hasn't put up their hands for anything.
So, most of you don't want to hire from IIMs or top business schools, right?
There's
You
only
said
some
somewhat.
nodding.
Somewhat important.
There's some nodding, not raise of hands.
I'm just creating the buzz.
Okay, the next question, thanks. I'm operating with one hand out here, so let's see. By and large, an employee with a premier institute background is likely to have more potential for senior roles. Do you think there's no correlation at all? Or it is somewhat likely or very likely? So I'll ask this question again. An employee with a premier institute background is likely to have more potential for senior roles. Is there a correlation? Yes? No?
Or let's put it politically correct, that do you think there is a segregation of the talent based on the premium business school and non-premium business school to grow further in the organization? That's what he's asking.
Yeah.
To explain that. Oh, people feel that, yes.
Okay, so we have a quiet audience here. So I'm going to ask you to make sure that your motor functions are working at 3 o'clock. Put your hand up, all. How many of you have hiring policies that say that we'll only hire from premium institutes? Leave your hands up.
No.
If that's true. None. Second question, hands up again. Sorry. Hands up again. Do you believe that premier institutes produce CEOs and CHROs as against regular institutes? No?
No, I think your voice is not clear. Yeah, closer.
Were you able to hear me clearly? Yeah. Okay, so let me ask the panel now, your take on this question. So we have 3 CHROs on this panel. How much is the HR pedigree important for you?
So pedigree is important at the time of hire, maybe, depending on the role you look at. Post they are on board, it's going to be purely performance which matters. Because whether I hire from a IIM or IIT or from a college in Bhubaneswar, it's post they get hired in the system. Maybe they get hired at different levels or different compensations. But over a period of time, it is their performance which is going to make them a CEO or not a CEO. Because I think there is no correlation of what one studied in your MBA or in your graduation to what he achieves after 20 years. I think there's a huge difference, and that difference is the performance which he does over a period of time.
So I would take it like this. Can you see some difference in these 3 people and me? every gate I was asked that, who are you? Can we check your credentials? I'm not mentioning anything, but at the time of entry, it matters that where do you come from, right? So in my opinion, sometimes organizations have this bias that any candidate who is coming from a premium business school will have some kind of intelligence and the competence which I'm expecting already ready. I don't have to develop it. Okay? So there is a notion, there is a basic bias which is there in the mind of the people. Second thing is, once you enter in the organizations, once I enter here, when people know me, then this tag doesn't matter. Okay? Because I'm a part of this group somehow. People will entertain me like that, I'm a part of this team. So same here, once you grow inside the organization, it doesn't matter that which degree you have. It is your competence, your performance and potential which defines your growth in the organization. That is what I believe. And as an organization, so those who don't know, HMD is Nokia phones. So we are a global company, Finnish organization, where we have our hiring policies. We cannot discriminate like this, first of all, right? There's no discrimination. But some people who come from that background, they always try to prefer, like my sales head would definitely ask, I need these 4 or 5 business school guys, those who can let's have a fire in the belly, because he thinks that everybody comes from XYZ institute with fire in the belly. So there is a notion which we need to crack, and I think it's somehow being cracked by the some of the organization. Still there are biases. I accept that.
So before I come to Sheetal, a question to both of the gentlemen here on my right. Isn't it becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you hire freshers only from premium business schools, you already given them the leg up to succeed in your organization? And later on, if you hire from another base of experience, are you not creating a biased organization in the first place?
Yeah, to an extent that is true, because because of the pedigree, people come at different salary scales or people levels, which we get questioned at a later stage, because ultimately both of them do the same kind of job. So that's going to be there. I think, but I think slowly we are going over, getting over with that. We are actually looking at more colleges and more institutes which are not premier, going to remote areas. I think that's something which we have learned over a period of time.
So what I will say that, yes, it matters that where are you coming from, as I was explaining that to you, but that is changing totally, because in our hiring, we don't prefer any school as such. So I would look at the, if your hiring is grounded, let me tell you guys. So if your hiring is grounded, and grounded I mean that you know that which kind of candidate you're looking at, then you will not look for the pedigree actually. You will look at more of a skills and the competence the person brings on board. So take an example, I want to hire a guy in digital marketing. Just giving one example, which is a very buzz thing nowadays. I would see his work rather than where he is passed out his MBA or a digital marketing degree. So that matters to me a lot, that what kind of work he has done in the past, which organization and projects he has uplifted in the past. So that matters a lot to me, because that is the thing which is going to make a change and the difference in my hiring. So I'm very particular. The team instructions are very clear in my company. I don't look after only in India, other places as well. We look at the work the person has been doing, the contribution he has made to the other organizations. A resume is something else, but the contributions are very different. So your hiring has to be grounded. What are you looking at in that candidate? So if you're not grounded, obviously you look and maybe bounce back on some of the things. Okay, let me rely on business school. Let me rely on this, because your hiring is not grounded. That is what my comment is.
Sheetal, your views, please.
Hi.
It's not working.
Is it working?
You can take this.
Is it? Okay, good. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, thanks for this important topic, I think education versus experience. In my view, certainly college performance doesn't guarantee job performance. What we are looking at, and as we are moving towards future of work, gig economy, I think what is becoming more and more relevant is what you bring on the table of what not all you have learned but what all you can learn. So the process of actually, learning, unlearning, and relearning, I think that's the key skill someone is looking at. That said, does Ivy schools provide the best to the world? Maybe yes. But do you want to like tap the potential just by having that pedigree in hand? Maybe not. So I'm a firm believer of what my co-panelists are saying here also. Maybe entry level, Gaurav, you're right, it does make a difference. But I have actually burnt my hands, honestly, hiring tier 1, and I say tier 1 and I hate this casteism on tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. But tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 colleges provide much better talent, and if you're able to tap the best of the talent from tier 2, tier 3, it definitely brings more value to the business. And tier 1 at times is just like, I will say we are creating systematic biases in the system. So that's my view on that. Yeah.
Sheeta, let me put you on the spot with one of your. You said you don't like this tier 1 preference. So why do you still have it?
My current policy and the organizations I've worked for, I don't think we have kept tier 1 as a pedigree to be selected.
Okay.
It's an equal opportunity provider policy where we want to ensure that you get us the talent, and some of it is by the way, all of our hiring biases need to be for future potential. I think organizations should done past now what people have already done in past. They need to look at future of work, working a bit differently. I think that's in terms of whether it's empathy, what are the business outcomes we are looking at. I think that's what probably is going missing in the entire hiring piece. So I'm not saying that I have a tier 1 preference. As I said, I will always hire for potential, passion, and purpose. If candidates have it, welcome, join us.
I want to add something there. So maybe you can keep it because you're moderating. Hello. Yeah, it's working.
Yeah.
So one thing is also very important, that you should have an appetite also to consume the premium business school, guys. So there is very important thing that I have experienced when you're saying that. When I say appetite, it's a culture building, because otherwise you'll have two groups in your own organization, which is one is following the premium top tier business school or maybe top tier engineering colleges, and other one is the non ones, right? And there will be two kind of maybe parts of organization will form. So in a way, if you are even hiring at the entry level, your appetite and the culture has to be very fair in terms of evaluating your people, because certain organization, even big fours, I will not name the organization, they have the weightage for the promotion if you come from a tier 1 business school or a tier 1 engineering college. I was very surprised to see that. And they call them as, we don't discriminate in our hiring. I term it as that this is an entire discrimination on the hiring, boss. Right? It's a first-hand discrimination. And they are the organization who have sustainability, LGBTQ, all that stuff in very good place. But in all their hiring proposals, they will have a premium business school thing written everywhere. So point is this, we have to grow up, guys. We have to grow up in our mindset that if you're hiring premium business school, appetite has to be there. Build a culture like this, that it is a cohesive culture that you can consume both people which are non-premium and premium, I would say. Non-premium maybe top rating. So this is a wrong word also, premium, non-premium. It's a top rating business school because the rating which matters.
So KRISHNAKUMAR, question to you. What should HR leaders do to eliminate bias in the hiring? Particularly when you talked about a senior leader saying, I want somebody from this institute. What does HR leaders need to do?
I think the intervention of the HR head or HR person has to be there to remove this bias part of it. You need to look at the position or the technical skills or the requirement of the position and hire the people suited for that, rather than looking at the pedigree or where somebody is coming up from. Because I think that's one way, and it is the champion has to be the HR person to lead this. So you know that will stop the bias in terms of pedigree, which matters to the hiring part.
Take one example. So what we did is that our organization was fond of the top rated business school guys. And when I came here, people did not like me when I advocated this, that I don't like this discrimination. what I did is that I had a lot of pressure from the business, get me the right guy then. Okay, so what we did is, we had an entire competency matrix design. When I said that, recruitment has to be grounded, it has to be grounded in your competency matrix. What are you looking at as a talent in that particular person? And how do you rate and evaluate that talent? So that matrix has to be very, very solid, you know. Second part is that how do you justify your presence while designing the job description of that position? Yeah, HR has to play a very critical role there. And it has to be partnered. Normally it is left on the business actually. But HR has to play, and they have to have some success story around it. You know, every role will have some of the people who have done it in the past. If they've done it very well, what was their features? What was their attributes? Where did they come from? What it took them to get success in that role? So that will design your job description metrics when you put it on for hiring. So these are the 2-3 things which you definitely can do. And as HR, you can partner with your business and say that I will get you, and the confidence level has to be there. I will get you the right candidate, don't worry, I'm there.
So I'd like to share two examples, one from fresher hiring and one from experienced hire. And the audience has got larger now, so I'm looking for some responses from you as well. I'll give you an example of TCS. TCS hires thousands of engineers every month for the coding jobs primarily. And in the past, they had different salary levels for joining compensation, depending upon the institute. What they've changed is that they now have a common coding exam that all applicants need to take. And whoever scores in the higher range gets the higher salary. So they still have different salary bands or different grade levels. So whoever scores highest in the test gets the highest salary. Whoever scores next in the median gets a different salary. And the people who have still qualified but have lower scores are offered a lower salary. What is your reaction to that? Is that a great practice? Yes or no? Yell out your answers. You don't seem so excited by it. You don't seem too excited by it. Makes more sense. So I'll give you another example from experienced hiring. So I was in a company which traditionally hired only from premium institutes, and I'm from a premium institute as well. But I recognized that it was a bias and that we're not really tapping the right talent. So what I instituted as a practice is that we took out the education from the resume and asked the line manager, interview for experience and competence for the job. We'll tell you later which institute he or she is from. And that produced data which showed that there was no correlation between higher performers in the interview and the institute. And in fact, the funniest part is the most ardent critic of this approach said the best candidate was a particular lady. He said, I'm sure she's from IIM Ahmedabad and IIT Delhi. She turned out to be from an unknown engineering college and had no formal MBA at all. Had learned started out of a family business, then went into professional work and built great skills and campaigns along the way.
That's a great example, and we did it for actually for gender biases. We never used to share any name on the resume, whether it's a woman or a man, because most of the candidate, I'm coming from a very sales-focused organization. In the sales-focused organization, their comments are, no, ये नहीं कर पाएगी यार. यार बच्चे होंगे यार. Like, please, कहाँ फंसा रहे हो यार? So like, please, like that, you will have all sorts of things. It's a without name. The resumes are without name. There is no name and institute and other things. You please look at the resume. You will get the second-hand information is the institute, and after that is the last name. When you're meeting the candidate is about the candidate, so that you get it to meet and know that men or women, like that. So
yeah, I think very relevant. But to me, the hiring biases start at the entry level at writing that job description. I sometimes wonder, I go to this, Naukri.com portal when my consultants actually post our jobs or even IIM jobs, right? I see jobs written like preferred candidates only from premium schools. If you are an IIM or XLRI, then only apply for a certain job. sometimes I wonder who are these people who are writing these job descriptions. Is there a dearth of talent if someone is not from that IM, pedigree or XLRI? And you are, by the way, looking for an experience of 10 to 15 years, say for a job description of a performance management specialist in HR or a LNE head for yourself, right? Would that pedigree, what he has done like 10 years ago, would be still relevant today? I wonder if what we are doing today will be relevant probably 10 years from now.
I would
So-
counter this. I would
Sure,
counter this,
sure.
Sheetal, because I respect the kind of the pedigree they're coming on, because if they're getting into a system where its evaluation metrics is quite high and competitive, then the person has some kind of seriousness towards life, he started, or he or she started the life with some seriousness towards studies, means some kind of rigor. And that's why he went there. So I would give some marks to it, in a way.
No. So we are talking about lateral hiring. Sorry, Gaurav. We are
Okay.
talking about lateral hiring.
Lateral hiring. Okay.
Someone who's 10 years, I'm looking for a performance management specialist only from XLRI. I think that doesn't resonate with me. I don't think that someone, by the way, I'm not a firm believer someone who has done an IM is only serious in studies. Someone who would have done economic honors can equally be a serious guy, by the way. Economic honors is a lot more difficult.
I'll add here. Maybe I think then Gaurav and me will not have a job as HR in our
Right.
lives.
So,
Because we never had any
no,
relationship
forget
to HR in our...
SRCC, forget Delhi University. I think what I'm trying to say is college performance doesn't guarantee job performance. And I'm a firm believer that after you have acquired a set of experience, what you demonstrate at work is a function of your own potential, your talent, how you are adaptable, how you are learning, unlearning, relearning. I think that's my mantra on putting a job to its best ability. So I think I still believe someone who is not from a tier 1 can outperform a given job.
So, Sheetal, what you're saying is that you give a preference to learning agility over institute.
Absolutely.
But Gaurav, you seem to be still caught in the trap of saying,
So
I prefer the
I
premium
would
guy first.
again challenge Sheetal on this. Why? Because it depends on the role what I'm going to do. It's more of a analytics role, or it's more of a business function role, or it's more of a general role, right? So there are different skills required to it. The degree of that skill matters. That, let's suppose I come from a engineering background and a non-engineering background, I would expect that maybe engineer will be more analytical in approach rather than a general person who is not having that kind of degree, because that's the approach and your mind gets trained on those things. That's the one of the traits I would look at.
No, true that. I mean, not to contest that. I think what we are talking about is not the job skill. What we are talking about, where is it coming from? Is it coming from an Ivy school, or is it coming from a not so Ivy school? So that's the difference job skill, definitely. Like, you can't hire a bartender to do maybe you can these days actually, to do a data analytics job. So
I'll give you
so
while I was in City, I was hiring in the Czech Republic.
Just 1 second. I think the general management skills are better adopted and absorbed from non-conventional job roles, or let me put it this way. Sorry, just let me complete. Education, rather than just saying, okay, this person has done data analytics course, I will only hire my data analyst. He's only done a data analytics.
I do
right?
not mean that. So
you can get functional guy who is, say, from a telecom sector, train him on a data analytics skill, and probably, make him worth the job which you are looking at. And that will help your business model
Absolutely.
somewhere.
But
So, yeah.
one thing is more here. If I have to evaluate these guys on some kind of diligence and intelligence, so we have to differentiate between the diligence
You
and
are
the
saying
intelligence.
only Ivy guys are diligent.
Not necessarily, because that's why he did not get into that competitive exam. He might have appeared for it. So my point is that any engineering aspirant will skip IIT exam. No, I don't think so. 90% people will not skip it. If he's an engineering aspirant, if he appeared for that IIT exam or IIM exam, so he will say that, no, I don't want to go to IIT because his capability was not there. So there was a capability issue somewhere in getting into that institute. Okay? So somewhere the intelligence and the diligence matters a lot to get into that institute as well at that time. when he was a student.
They're stopping my mic to answer you. But, what you're saying is right. Someone has cracked the competitive exam, someone has come through. We are talking about industry experience versus education. So, will you only tell me a CEO can be a CEO if he's the Ivy guy? Because he was diligent, he was intelligent,
No,
and he did
no.
his bit.
What I meant is,
I think
I just
after
love this
25
panel.
years of experience,
We're fighting with each other
What
on
I-
stage.
what I
Live
meant is-
audience.
it'll lead to, I think someone would have proven skill, demonstrated ability, and I think potential to showcase what more he can do. So I will just leave at
We'll
that. But
continue, but let's hear from KRISHNAKUMAR. My two colleagues are fighting with each other.
No, I think if that would have been the job description when I entered SR for the matter, I would not have got the job because I came with 17 years of sales and marketing experience and I came as a talent acquisition head. So if that would have been a match, I would not have got hired. So the system needs to be proactive and have that innovative saying that I can hire a guy for talent acquisition from a guy who was not an HR at all. I think that's, so the organization needs to be innovative in thinking that way. Because I can't say that that is a job description they would have made for me.
So just to add, in my career, I've seen a very different kind of profile. And I find these biases about pedigree and institute only in India. And I'll give you an example. When I was part of Citibank, I was hiring in the Czech Republic for our BPO company. And all the applicants were tourist guides, bartenders. And there was even one who worked in a casino. So when you have that profile for an entry-level data processing kind of role, you have to test for skill rather than education. And the finest CFO I've ever worked with is a Polish lady who started her career in a casino dealing cards. And she then did a chartered accountancy after that. So that kind of profile in India would probably get rejected straight off. But because India continues to be very biased, and I think the other consideration that we all need to take as HR leaders is that there's, to Gaurav, to your point, not everybody can even appear for an IIM or IIT exam because they could be economically or socially disadvantaged. So it's really important when you talk about equity and inclusion to cast the net wider so that you can get the right talent who are relevant for the role rather than an overqualified strategist who wants to leave 2 years later.
I rest my case. So it's not that, but yeah, I have my points. But maybe we can take some questions from the audience.
Let's take some questions from the audience
Yes.
now. And hopefully there's some questions on LinkedIn as well. So Drishti, if you can help me if there are any questions on LinkedIn.
By the way, my background is also not core HR. I came from sales, then training, then sales, then HR.
it is answering the panel topic, I guess.
Yeah.
Then we don't need.
Audience questions.
Any questions? Scared?
Thank you very much. That was an amazing discussion. I have two questions for the panel. So I can say like it was an amazing discussion. Look at the crowd, everybody standing here. The first question is,
That was the intention.
and we succeeded, I think. So my first question is around, okay, let's talk about two things. And probably Sheetal, you could answer this also. When we talk about finding a talent, okay, if you go to an Ivy League or a tier 1 institution, for example, you might search for that one person in 100 or 1,000 people. Vis-a-vis, if you go to the market, you will go and search in, say, 1 lakh people or, say, 5 lakh people. So don't you think once we have that filtration criteria that helps going to an Ivy League, I'm not saying that just go to an Ivy League, but, you know, having those kind of talent helps you out in narrowing your search and, you know, finding the talent what you require instead of probably doing a job fair, what doesn't happen in India, something like that.
No, just to make HR job easy and not knowing what I'm hiring for, I think hiring from Ivy doesn't make it easy, by the way. I can not still get best of my candidate from Ivy in a go, like out of 100 candidates. Until unless I'm clear what am I hiring for, I think it will be easier to go out and sort out, basically filter it out. That's why I said your JDs have to be much more innovative, agile, forward-looking, rather than just saying someone has done like 10 years back in Ivy school.
So one
that's my
important
answer.
point here is that,
Thanks,
one,
Gaurav.
I agree with Sheetal that we are talking about a work which has to be reduced. That is not the right approach. Second, there are other things to filter, man. So you can filter the competence, you can filter the skill, you can filter the industry, you can filter the kind of work he has done in the past. You a lot of things, and that's what we do. So when we don't hire, I don't prefer people from Ivy League as such because honestly, I don't have appetite to consume them.
Oh,
They
that's
have very high
interesting.
expectations. I cannot manage the expectations. Very honestly. And I'm upfront saying this. I burnt my hands for this. And I decided that if you are okay to come, that's fine. I'm not obstructing your entry. And that's why a resume is without your background and everything. But there are other things to filter, man.
No, this is interesting. Thank you very much. Anybody? Yeah. Anybody else has any other question for the panel?
So, I'm Ishan Kumar. I'm the CEO of ICRIS 3D. We work in augmented reality and virtual reality. First of all, great discussion. Really enjoyed it. One thing I would like to say, this is very directed towards you. So, what are a couple of questions you have in mind while conducting an interview or hiring a senior level VP that are the deciding questions? Like we all have those bias questions like, okay, if this answer goes towards this direction, this is more likely to get hired.
Yeah. So I take interviews at the very senior level. So when I ask the question, one important question is, my evaluation is not based on the business skills. My evaluation is more or less based on the cultural fitment. When I said that, the appetite is not about to consume the expectation in terms of providing the benefits. The appetite is in terms of fitting into my culture. As an organization, that you should not be walking like a white elephant in my organization that I am the only king here. No. There are other people also. So I have to look at the cultural fitment. So there are few indicative questions I can ask, that what he liked in the maybe last organization, what made him feel happy in the last organization, what was his experience there, or why do you want to be join me, like besides thing, and you might have done your research that, okay, you want to join Nokia, why do you want to join Nokia? So a lot of times question comes, oh, my phone was in the childhood was Nokia, that's why I want to join Nokia. Like, thank you very much. So people don't know their reasons, you know. I'm very, very fond of Nokia phone because I have started, my father gifted me the first Nokia phone. See the answers you're getting from the senior guys. So you can make out that what is the intentions, and the few questions on cultural fitment definitely there.
So this is actually what, in the lines of what I usually say during my interviews as well, because this is as much as a test to see if we are a good fit for you, as it is for us to see if you're a good fit for us, culturally speaking. So have you ever flown in a person for a senior position to spend a day with them, see how would they like the culture?
Sorry,
Have you ever flown in the person you were supposed to hire for senior positions? Because I'm hiring for example, a few VP positions now as the organization is growing. So I wanted to basically try out
hiring?
this. I would be honored. So the thing is that I'm actually planning to fly them in and spend a day with them, see how it works out. Have you ever tried that? Are there pros and cons for this approach?
Yes, a couple of times, but not the entire day, but like half a day spending with them over lunch, because sometimes you come to know about the person's biases over lunch table, while interacting with them, having coffee, and also their observation. So I normally ask that after 2 hours of my office visit or something, we normally tell them that it's a client visit or something and people can walk in. So I ask them, what did you observe? And a lot of times you get to know in the observation that what is the priority list for the individual. So if you are very, I would say, maybe money-minded, you know, like you prefer money things and monetary factors, you will always look at the things, oh, the office thing was very nice, this was very good, I like the cafeteria, I like this. So you can make out that what makes a person happy in the organization, you know. And then maybe some people will find, oh, I like the people who are grouping together, they were chatting this thing. I like the culture that there was no cabins. So I will look at for those observations somewhere, that what person is observing. And that takes me somewhere as a takeaway from that conversation. Yes.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much for that.
So just to add to that, one of the things that's important when you're flying in a person for a senior level role is to recognize confidentiality as well. So sometimes the candidate may not be willing to do that because he or she might know somebody in your company and they might wonder why you are there. But I believe it's a great practice. I've done it a couple of times and it's very illuminating. Also, when you talk about city relocation, the Delhi-Mumbai fight always consists. And in my experience, Delhiites don't want to go to Mumbai. Mumbaiites don't want to go to Delhi quite often.
Nobody wants to come to Chandigarh, by the way.
Nobody wants
We
to
are
come to
from
Chandigarh. So it's useful to fly in the person to have a view of the city, to get a sense of their comfort.
One important thing is that when you fly in people, don't let the person spend the entire day with 1 or 2 individuals. It has to be 4 or 5 people. And then you combine the team in the evening and find their observation about the person. It has worked wonders with me when I do these things with different angles and different perspectives. One can be from your team member who is just maybe an entry-level person, and I get very good insights from these guys because these are the people who look up to these managers from that angle as well. They can be peer groups, they can be senior people.
And to your previous question, one question that I find really helps in interviews for senior people is to ask them to describe a project that they led that failed. And why did they think it failed? And the one who blames the team members doesn't get hired.
Okay, so the one question that came on LinkedIn is, I think you all spoke about education versus experience, but there was emphasis on skills by all of you. So one question is, if all of you can share, each one of you, what are the skills that you are prioritizing? What are the top skills that you focus on when you make your hiring decisions, which are absolutely critical beyond education or experience?
I think the technical knowledge part, because I come from a company which is into power sector, but obviously the technical part is important for us. But else, how has he taken his journey through? I think how he describes his performances or failures. I think that is one indicator we always take.
Okay, thank you. So one important thing which we don't miss in any of the hiring from entry level to the top level is the startup mindset. We're very, very clear about it that even we spend a single penny, we're going to ask 100 questions to you. There is no budget for everything. If the person is asking me, let's suppose I'm hiring a marketing person and my first question is, how much marketing budget do you have? He's out. Honestly. So this is how it is because we run this company as a startup with a startup mindset. And there are some indicators to it like ownership, like your accountability, how much you have taken in the past profiles, how do you own that current thing. So there are a lot of indicators to do that. So we don't compromise on the skill, which is a startup skill besides other managerial and functional skills.
So one that I look for is emotional intelligence. I'm a great fan of emotional intelligence. And I believe that that's a much stronger prediction of performance than education.
No, I think all taken, but I think when I'm talking personally, and some organizations may adopt, may not adopt. I think passion and purpose is what I hire for. When I look for a candidate, I look for passion, how passionate an individual is, probably even to do that MIS Excel job, right? How much he wants to outperform and learn, as I said on the learning agility already. I think if to my mind, my motto is passion never fails. And if you get people with right skills and right attitude who show enough potential to do a job, I think they outperform always. So that's my view on that, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Passion is very important. Yeah, I
So
agree.
we have 1 minute left. Any other questions from the audience? Yes.
We're having a debate on tier 1 and tier 2. So what I've observed is that there is different career progression for tier 1 people and tier 2 people. To what extent do you agree to this? Is this a right strategy for an organization? That somebody who is coming in from an IIM will get confirmed as a manager, and somebody who is coming from a non-IIM will be confirmed as an assistant manager. To what extent do you think that this is a right strategy? And how do we address this if it is not right?
So, absolutely agree. Because tier 1 is starting from the maybe floor 1 already. We normally hire as management trainees when we hire these guys. So they are on a particular salary level. And if you reverse that salary level, you will always benchmark this with your level in the organization. So you cannot mismatch it, you know. So take an example, your level starts with level 1 and it goes to level 65. So level 1 will be your 2 lakh rupees person. And you're hiring an IM guy, if you, unless and until you offer him 20 plus or 25 plus, he will not look at you, right? So अगर आप 25 लाख उसको दे रहे हो तो he is already at the level 10 or 11 or 15 or 20 maybe. So that's the answer here, because the other person started at level 1. He's already starting at level 15 or 20 due to his package. Maybe not due to his competency, not due to his skills. It is a package which is making him an advantage to the other person. But I have seen the examples that once these people also have done this, like they have been hired at level 15, they have taken the time to grow to level 20 compared to 5 spaces left. Then a guy who was at level maybe 8, he is already on level 16 or 17. So the speed of promotion cannot be defined by the business school or maybe by a tier 1 tier. Yeah.
So to close, I'll offer my comment on your question. I completely dislike the tiers based on institute. And I believe if you're willing to pay X for a job, you find the person who can deliver the performance expectations of that job and not worry about where the person came from. And for that, you need to have things like assessment centers, competency checks in place to make sure that you're hiring the right person for the role. So pay for the performance, not pay for the background.
No, true that.
So thank you very much. I
Thank you
hope
guys.
enjoyed the conversation.
Very, very nice and calm audience. Thank you.